Happy New Year, everybody! And welcome to our very first GGDA meeting of 2024. Yay! I hear your applause. Everyone's going crazy here in the building. Wait, no, we're not in the building. But everyone's going crazy anyway. It is odd to be back online with these. You would think there's a pandemic going. It's cold. Lots of reasons to stay home and work on games. Everyone's favorite pastime, even more than playing the games. I'm Andrew Greenberg, Executive Director of the Georgia Game Developers Association. Thank you all very much for joining us for one of our meetings on Game Jam success, how you can make the most of the opportunity that is the Global Game Jam. Been a fan of these since they started. I think they're amazing opportunities, amazing events. But like everything else, it takes a little forethought, a little planning, a little preparation, and just a little bit of luck. Oh, and great teamwork, like everything else in life. We're going to have some great panelists today talking about their experience in the Jam. They are winners of the Best in Georgia competition. That's right. Every year, the Georgia Game Jam sites nominate one team from their location to go on. They get paired with industry mentors who help them continue working on their games. At the end of a month, we check out each of the games. We vote on which is the best, and that one gets paired with legal advice, marketing support, and more to help make their game a reality. The two teams on here tonight are winners of that, and you could be this year's winner. It's an amazing opportunity, and frankly, we've been blown away by the quality of games that have come out of the jams for this and what they have turned into over time. Our next meeting, February 13th, will be showing this year's Best in Georgia nominees. Very exciting time for them. They'll be paired with a lot of pro mentors. We haven't seen a lot of you since last year at Siege, which, believe it or not, was exactly a month ago. Siege at DreamHack, and a lot of our judges there for the Sylvie Awards and more. Very excited about being mentors this year. So very happy with the mentors who've already stepped up to work with the teams this year. Some of the teams will probably have more than one mentor. There are 5 sites around Georgia. If you're not already registered for a site, please do so. 4 of the sites are taking virtual attendees. That'd be GSU, KSU, I believe SCAD Atlanta, and there's a purely online one. SCAD Savannah and Augusta are only for students of those institutions. But otherwise, we've got lots of great opportunities. 4 that'll take any of you, and you can go to 3 of these in person, GSU, KSU, and SCAD Atlanta. So lots of great opportunities for you. Keep watching ggda.org. We're putting up more of the Jam information there. And now, I'm really looking forward to the next part of this presentation, because this is a look at the most recent versions of games by our Best in Georgia winners. And we're going to start with Light Break, which pretty much was eating up the Audience Choice Awards yet again this past year. So let's get a look at Light Break and tell us a little bit about it, please.
Cool, yeah. So I'm Hannah. I'm from Lightbreak, from Team Lightbreak. Lightbreak is a Zen game. We actually were at the Georgia State location in 2020. Zen games weren't really a thing back then, so we were kind of a puzzle game back then. Our theme was repair, so that's kind of what we were working with. And yeah, I will go and show some of the gameplay. So it's a Zen game. And if you don't know what a Zen game is, it's like repetitive puzzle game, very low stakes, very not punishing. Just, supposed to zen out. And so we have been able to incorporate music elements and story elements into this. And here's how the game works. So if you heard that little tune, play it again. This is the first phase of our gameplay. So this is the tuning phase of the gameplay. So you take this little tuning bead and rotate it around to match this pitch. So I'll play the pitch again and then... Gaming. So now you heard 3 tones, so I'll play those again. All right, and then I'll click these to kind of make sense of that. So this is our second phase of gameplay, the match phase. So those are those 3 notes, but they're out of order. So the match phase is matching the notes in the correct order to the one that you hear. So all right, and then I'm gonna go kind of speed run this next puzzle. All right. And now all of these notes are being pulled to the middle. This is like the main instrument in the story portion of the gameplay, which you'll see in a second. This is called the saws. And yeah, this is now our story portion of the gameplay. So what you're doing in these levels is each level you are solving this puzzle, tuning the instrument, because this instrument was made to directly defy the antagonist in the story. The antagonist takes away people's communication. So this instrument was designed to, if you are within the like vibrational distance of it, you can get a very strong mental image of whatever the player is imagining. So this is a way to share stories, even if you don't have any other form of communication. And yeah, so I will go ahead and show how our story element works. Through iterating, we've made it a lot more interactive. Gamers don't read is a thing for a reason, and that is okay, because I am a gamer that does not read. So you really just mouse around, try to find the correct bits, read these little bits, and sometimes the story acts out, or acts out for you. So yeah, this scene will conclude. And this was one of the scenes that we showed off at DreamHack. We have this lovely updated map that I'm super excited about. New art, new audio, and it takes you on your journey. Because what you're doing is you're playing as the little girl that you saw. Her name is Ava. It's also the girl you can see in my background. She goes on this adventure, so you're telling her story, really. You're uncovering her story and figuring it out. And yeah, that is Lightbreak, and that's where we're at.
All right. Hey everyone, this is Paul.
I'm Jade.
And we're just 2 of the other members of Chew Crew. So Fruit 66 is a game, a fast-paced, game where you are concocting smoothies, driving and delivering them to customers all at the same time. So it is a fast-paced what's the word I'm looking for? Multitasking game, yes. And I can go ahead and share my screen. We were at the GT location last year in collaboration with Georgia State. And we've got a lot of great opportunities from GGDA to help us develop our game. So thank you so much. And here's what our game looks like pretty close to today. This is one of our builds, one of our milestones in development. And let's go ahead and select a level. Ooh, you're gonna play this one.
Yeah,
all right.
I
and I'll narrate. So you can see that there's order tickets at the top left there, and wait, you gotta slow down. I gotta narrate.
sorry.
So you can see that Jade has concocted a smoothie according to the order. We found the car necessary to deliver the order to, and she's already on her way delivering the next order. And you're trying to do these in a good amount of time. As you can see when you deliver the orders, there's different levels of customer satisfaction. You're trying to do this as quick as possible in order to rack up higher scores. As you can see, Jade also ran into a power up there. That one specifically, it runs out pretty quickly, but it lets your car move just a little bit faster. And looks like she missed that order. You're able to navigate your car pretty smoothly. We wanted to make the driving pretty intuitive and easily accessible. So you can, maneuver around cars, hit the brakes, do whatever you need to do in order to get your next order quickly and on its way. Nice delivery.
Sorry.
And she's already got like the multitasking down pat, delivering one order while getting the next one in the blender as quickly as possible. It's really stellar performance. I've never seen you play this well. Well, unfortunately, driving can be pretty difficult, and you can crash into cars as well. You can see that subtracted some money from the performance as well. You get a rating, and so this game kind of challenges you to be competitive, set high scores, and eventually unlock upgrades. We're looking at adding a lot of mechanics to this game, but this is the core gameplay that we've been demoing this year. So thank you so much.
All right, very nice. And remember, everyone, those games, while the initial bits were made at the Game Jam, that's what they've been working on since. So in hindsight, I'm thinking maybe we should have shown the before and after. That'll be a great presentation at some later date. The Game Jam game versus where they are now. Little difference between the two games. So don't think that's necessarily what you're going to make at the Jam, but that is what can come out of the Jam. So really excited about this. We had a lot of great locations, and we're going to turn it over to one of the location leads, Laura, to talk about the GSU site and then lead our panel discussion on how to help you succeed at the Jam. Laura, please introduce yourself and take it away.
Hi, my name is Laura Bafty. I'm an indie game designer and a student at GSU. I'm currently the president of Panther Dev, the Georgia State Game Development Club. And I'm also the site organizer for GSU's Global Game Jam site, where you should have some good stuff going this year, a lot of PCs running. So yeah, I'm here to sort of help moderate the group. Awesome jobs with the games right now. They look so good. I'm very proud of Fruit 66. Y'all have come a long way since last year. I want to start off with a question that's kind of like what everybody sort of like wants to know is, looking back, is there anything you would have done differently during the Game Jam? Because game development and game design is no easy task, especially under the nature of Global Game Jam. It is tight hours. You're trying to sleep, eat, and jam at the same time. Is there anything looking back you're like, oh, I should have done that. We should have done this. Now that you're like in a development for a year, 2 or 3 years with Hannah, anything like that. So if y'all want to take it away, go for it.
Awesome. I think from our strategy last year, we spent a good amount of time planning our work before diving straight into it. That was a good move on our part. What I think we could have done better was having our developers make an infinite game loop sooner, with stand-in assets. We rushed pretty quickly to get to cobble everything together at once. Also not, too bad of a strategy, because I think in the past we were afraid that we'd piece things together too late. So there's a bit of adjustment there, but trying to get, a playable loop, like a very basic one, no UI, just something that you can, test the controls out with quickly, would have been a better move on our part, and just easier to build off of.
I think that's something that I would have done differently is bring a go pack that has a lot of food and water, because Laura's right. Even taking time to go to a water fountain multiple times, even taking time to go and find where the site organizer has snacks and water is taking precious development time away. And I remember having to leave to go get dinner and So I think that kind of organizing and having all of that stuff ready to go with me, and knowing what it is that I need, would have been very beneficial to me.
I definitely agree with knowing where everything was because I remember walking around like GT. The center of computing is like a maze last year. It was like trying to find the microwave. So definitely knowing where everything is in the game jam is like very useful. I can vouch for that. Now let's flip that question to a more positive light. You guys were the winners of the game jams. So I want to sort of look back and is there anything you did during the game jam that you would do again? Like different objects where you maybe scheduled things out that you liked more, maybe just things that you brought, things that you talked about, stuff like that.
I like what Paul said about spending a lot of time in the planning phase. I think that that's something that we also did. That at the time, I was like, "What are we doing? We need to get going. Let's go, guys!" But staying in that planning phase and making sure that we're all comfortable with the idea, we're all excited about the idea, because I think that bringing that excitement to the jam and wanting to make something super cool with the idea that you have going is very important. So definitely not overlooking the planning phase in Global Game Jam was a successful point.
Yeah, that is a really good one that I think worked out for really well for us as well. We had a team of eight, 8 members, and so it was a little chaotic at first, but I really loved the amount of feedback that came from everyone. Hannah's absolutely right that working on something that everybody is having fun with is such a super big part of making a really successful game. So just creating an atmosphere that everybody's able to speak up and provide feedback, have fun doing what they do, would absolutely advocate for that every year.
Good stuff, good stuff. I really do think sort of creating a positive environment, no matter where you're working, even if it's like a 1 month game jam or 48 hours, is really important. That is a good thing, yeah. Okay, moving on. I noticed with both of your guys' games that the gameplay feels fresh and exciting. I remember when I got the chance to play Fruit 66 back at Global Game Jam last year, what really drew me in was the innovative gameplay. I hadn't really seen anything like that where it was stressful and I was having to make things. It was really sort of like, wow, this is new, this is fresh. And especially when I first played Lightbreak, I think at Siege 2 years ago, I was amazed with the use of audio you guys had. It blew me away of how innovative both of your games were. So I kind of wanted to sort of like creep in on how you guys drew inspiration for your game ideas. Because that first Friday night, you kind of have to like solidify what you want to make. So I kind of want to know your sort of creative processes, if y'all are willing to share.
What was it we did the first night? We took the theme. We whiteboarded. Just put on a whiteboard. Everything that was in our heads, not necessarily even game ideas, but just like, oh, with roots, does it make you think of like root vegetables? That is kind of the direction we took our game. Does it make you think of like family trees and things like that? And taking that and just spitballing off of each other helped kick off that ideation process. We did like also consult ChatGPT just for like, oh, what are some other game ideas that that like indie games could shoot for that would be easy to create quickly. It wasn't great. I mean, I think AI still has a long way a long way to go. But it did kind of help kick off our ideation process. And one of them sounded kind of funny. That was just like, oh yeah, like that sounds a lot like Overcooked. We all love playing Overcooked. And it only just kind of developed from there, allowed us to pitch in more ideas to make the game idea that we had.
I mean, no shame in using ChatGPT, especially if you like acknowledge it and you're like, yeah, that's how we were sort of spitballing ideas. So I think that's a fun way of sort of connecting with the theme because a lot of people have like a mindset of creating their own game at the start where they're like, okay, I know what game I want to make. Then we'll just slap the theme on at the start. Where I feel like sort of having that fresh set of being like, okay, this is a word we need to work with. Let's figure it out. That's a unique way to put it. I like that a lot. Yeah. All right. Hannah, how was Light Break sort of creative?
So yeah, I definitely agree with the throw spaghetti at the wall until something sticks method. Getting everything out there in an environment where not just game ideas, just thoughts can go up on the whiteboard, I think is really awesome. And I mean, definitely you have to draw inspiration from the theme. That's part of most game jams. But really, I think what took Lightbreak in the direction that we ended up in, being a very music based game, we weren't story based from the start, but we were music based from the start, and that's because we had a very talented sound designer. So we could have just used her to make like a little menu theme and a little background audio, but instead deciding to go, no, let's make a game that's based on audio. If we have this kick butt composer on our team, why not? So I think that looking at team composition and strengths and pulling inspiration from your strengths is a cool way that we went about it.
Yeah, I think sort of understanding what you have when you start with a game jam and having people be like, oh, I'm actually really good at 3D modeling, and then you go for a 2D game, you're missing out. So I think you guys being able to harness that sort of like, okay, we have a great sound designer, that's really, really, really powerful when you produce things because you have that skills already. So sort of leaning into that, working with a team can be like very high stress, especially when it's 48 hours and maybe you're like disagreeing with people, things are throwing across the room. I'm obviously exaggerating, but it can be quite nerve wracking, especially when you're on like little amounts of sleep and you're trying to time out food breaks. So how did you guys sort of approach team collaboration during a game jam? Is there anything you guys did to maybe work as a team efficiently? Was it like team dinners, things like that?
Something that I know, I think that the biggest bit of collaboration from Lightbreak is that collaboration sometimes means compromise, or I guess a lot of the times means compromise. I know that when we went into it, something that was up in the air was what engine are we going to use? And I was very new to development at the time. And our team lead was a little bit further in development, but I was Unity and he was Team Unreal. And we ended up sticking with Unity because if I had gone to Unreal at that point in time, I don't know how much I would have been able to contribute, but with him being a little bit more comfortable with making games and having more of that experience under his belt, that was a bit of a compromise that we did to just maximize efficiency.
Good stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Chukru.
Oh yeah. I think for us, as mentioned before, the plan that we set up was really key in helping us identify those points of contention that we were going to have over the process. So setting a milestone for example, like several hours ahead of the deadline for us to just like stop all new development, like focus on the game that we have and just like polish or replace assets that we're doing. That was a good one that kind of helped us from feeling like too stressed and rushed in the final hours. The other one, part of those milestones are also ones not related to your work, but forced breaks. Everyone takes a forced break. You do an activity together. You like try snacks. I don't know, like listen to ASMR, guided ASMR, together in a room that make everyone a little uncomfortable and bond over trauma, things like that, right? Just fun ways to shake it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we are providing a Mario Kart session on Saturday for GSU students just to be like, okay, try your screen, like face off this screen and look at this screen instead. Definitely helps because I think a lot with like burnout in game jams is really sort of a thing to focus on, especially if you're coming back from like school and now you're jumping into game jam and school's next and you have assignments and you're like, oh god, I have this thing that I've set myself into. Do you have any sort of ways to prevent burnout? Maybe even like watching your teammates besides just like prying yourselves off with another screen or anything like that?
A lot of the time, the communication channels we had were used for like running into blockers, or like like clarifying questions and things like that. And if the channel's like full of that, that's not really fun, right? So like definitely taking time to share achievements or really funny things that you found through the course of development. Checking in on other teams. That's my favorite part of any hackathon. checking out like what other teams are doing, and that even gives them a little break, to explain what they're doing. It's fun for everyone. I really enjoy that part.
One of my favorite game jam moments was just sort of like waddling around GT and being like, "What are you guys up to? Are you taking a nap? Oops, sorry." So I think sort of like checking in on other teams can be really important. Do y'all have? So I know that like you guys have been sort of running your games around through like MomoCon last year, and now you were at DreamHack, which was a fantastic event. What has been your sort of experience showcasing your game to a wider audience after winning? I know sort of like after the craziness of Global Game Jam and suddenly you win Best in Georgia and you have all these sort of people talking to you and your game's now become something else. I would like to sort of like know your guys' experience after that and sort of post Game Jam.
For us, it's been very new to me, but very awesome, and very rewarding. It's the coolest thing to be able to go to a convention and just talk about the thing that I love and I'm super passionate about. That has been super awesome. Kind of expectations going into that I wish somebody sat me down and told me is prepare for a lot of feedback. And don't worry, you will get good at parsing through that feedback later on. And also prepare for a lot of iterating. I think that something that we even talked about before hopping on this call is just the changes that you make after seeing people, not even people who don't give feedback, just watching people play your game. Invaluable experience, but it will make you want to change some things up. So I think that preparing to do that, preparing to hear that feedback and know what to do with it, those are two tips. But it's been awesome. It's been super, super rewarding. Very grateful for all of the opportunities that have come post Best in Georgia.
Yeah. Actually, where was it going to start? Going to the cons, and I've been a long time con goer myself in Atlanta, going to MomoCon when I was in like middle school. So actually getting to present there and like have a booth, that was an amazing opportunity. Thanks GGDA again for that. Really going to the different cons throughout the year too, and even just seeing like the different like parts of the audience that come out to the same con. There's a really wide variety of gamers, and for me at first I thought that just meant like, oh yeah, people play different genres, like, oh, some people are like younger, some people are older, but really like getting to have people play test our game and seeing like how their skill levels and interests applied to the ways that they would play our game, it was really amazing feedback. It was huge, and it was very different from, just sending our game out over Discord or to our friends and family. It was very eye-opening, and a lot of crushing feedback, a lot of really fun feedback. Seeing people like love and excel at our game was such an amazing experience, and seeing people not have such a great time with our game in different ways, that was also really crushing feedback that helped us figure out how we can either focus on the audience that we are targeting, or widen our audience a little bit by making some of our mechanics and tutorial more accessible.
Yeah, I definitely want to bounce off because you guys I can talk today. You guys sort of both mentioned that feedback is sort of very crucial to the development process, and a main sort of thing during game jams is after submission, oh, you've done all the hard work, but now you have to sit in front of some judges and present your game that you've obsessed over for 48 hours. Do you guys sort of have any sort of like playtesting types of sort of like not shoving information down the judge's throat and be like, this is my game, this is the entire story, and sort of just helping guide? Y'all have any advice for like maybe after the 48 hours helping talk with the judges but not sort of like info dump?
Yeah, no, I think that that's a really good question, because especially, I don't know if Chew Crew has dealt with the same thing, but playtesting and watching people play your game at conventions is so different from what I would recommend people doing at Global Game Jam, because at Global Game Jam, you're trying to sell it. give your pitch to the judges. Let them understand the mechanics, understand what they're doing, make them feel good about playing your game. Because I think that can make or break their opinion on it, whether or not the mechanics are novel or the graphics are perfect. I think that just having fun is the core of any game. And if you can kind of push them into that mindset of having fun, I think that is the best. Because at conventions, you just want to sit and see what people do and don't say a thing. So definitely flip-flop mentality. Sell the game to the judges.
That is absolutely right. And part of that milestone for us about having that development cutoff is that you also have plenty of time to figure out how are you going to pitch your game? Like, how are you going to demo this game in the best light so that, they can see what your game's really made out of. I think when presenting that game to the judges, some of them may even ask you like to play it for them. And if not, if it's an option, like don't be afraid to play it for them. Two, maybe just to show them like how it's done. Like you could do the whole thing. You could like show them like how to do it, and then like open up to them to let them try like a mechanic that they've seen you already do. And that way, that will really help their understanding. And some of our playthroughs are pretty hard. We kind of like rehearse them almost like they're a script, and you do actions in a certain way, in a certain pace, in a certain order. A lot of our gameplay that we've shown both over presentations and in person, we realized that having play tested the game so many times, we're all really good at it. Unfortunately, that means we always play really fast, and you can't always see like what's going on. That's always hard to like dial down. So that takes some practice as well.
I think knowing exactly how your game plays is both the best experience. You're like, oh, I'm so good at it. But then you just don't enjoy it as much anymore. You're like, oh, I know exactly what's coming up, and this isn't a game for me anymore. So I think that was really good advice on sort of knowing your game and selling it to the judges, because you want to win. You want to sort of get the trophy, go home, and maybe have some people on, have eyes on your game, and eyes on you, especially because half of global game jamming is sort of kind of a weird networking event where you're both sweaty, tired, and sort of pitching yourself to the world. So yeah, good feedback. Awesome stuff. So this year for Global Game Jam 2024, I've spoken to some jammers who are very interested, and we seem to have a handful of first-time game jammers. I know Hannah has been in a couple game jams throughout, and I know True Crew, you guys have been to Global Game Jam before, so I kind of wanted, as like a final takeaway from the panel, what advice you guys would have for aspiring game developers that are looking into participating for their first game jam, or just people who've only been to Global Game Jam maybe once and are trying again.
A lot of our members were first-time jammers as well. I think, let's see, I was thinking of two things. One of them is don't be afraid of having not much experience. As mentioned before, coming up with a great plan was really crucial for us. Identifying someone, to help everyone stick to that plan is a really valuable skill that you don't necessarily need game development experience for, but to some people that may be like an intuitive skill that like you might already have some of. Like if you're good at fostering communication, if you're good at having a creative vision, and you can watch other people and see how they might execute it, that's really good. The other is that it's really hard to imagine lots of different types of games when most of the games you've probably played in your life are maybe not even AAA titles, but I think even if it's been published in like an indie game in a store, it's very different from what you can make in a game jam game. So I'd highly encourage like going on YouTube or something and looking at game jam winners just to see like, okay, they made this in this amount of time. It might still be kind of hard if you don't have that game experience, but it definitely opens your brain to lots of different types of ideas that are really fun game jam ideas that probably need some work before they would be published somewhere, but it'll just open your mind to that diversity.
Last year's game jam was actually my first game jam ever, And I'm not even a developer. I'm an artist for True Crew. So I just wanted to say you don't have to be a developer or anything. You can make music, you can do 3D art, 2D art, animation, whatever. That's what I was for True Crew. So I always thought game jams were meant for just developers, but that's not true at all. So highly encourage any artists out there to join as like much as possible. So yeah.
I'm a strong advocate and that literally there is a role for anybody in game dev.
Yeah.
Like literally if you're good at like creating a timeline of like production, then bam, you're a producer in a game. Like that's all you have to do. So I think having sort of knowing that you can participate no matter what skill set you have. Because I know imposter syndrome is like a big thing in game jams because sort of going in and being like, oh, I can't do that. No way. And not really realizing like, hey, you know how to do 2D art. You have an iPad with a pencil. You can do it. You got it. Yeah. Okay. I'll pass it over to Hannah.
Yeah, I think that my advice is very similar. I mean, one, Global Game Jam's 48 hours. I have wasted weekends in sillier ways. So if nothing comes of it, I've wasted weekends in sillier ways. But yeah, just go for it. If you have an interest in joining, that means that you have an interest in making cool stuff. So even like I know people who haven't finished the global game jam, and they still have a portfolio piece at the end of it, and it's also a really good time to XP grind, really, for the gamers in the chat, to gain experience with whatever it is that you want to get better at, because that's what you're committed to for the weekend. So just go for it. I was similar to Jade. I really had little game development experience, and Global Game Jam was my first game jam as well. And it was pretty intimidating, but goodness, I have gotten so much better just from that game jam alone, but from having the confidence of having finished Global Game Jam and participated in it. So I think that a game jam is a really awesome, especially a 48-hour game jam is a really awesome way to start your game dev experience, your game dev journey. So yeah, just don't be intimidated. Go for it. It's fun.
I think Global Game Jam is a really good excuse to sort of like hone your craft as well. Sort of like having this sort of like, bam, I made this in 48 hours and this is a portfolio piece you can like show off if you're like at a job interview. Obviously, if it's a little rough looking, be like, oh, this is what we did in 48 hours. But still. So yeah, that's all I have for y'all today. I want to sort of open up the floor for you guys to senselessly plug your games if you have any sort of updates, anything like that. Go for it.
Ooh, you first, Hannah.
Oh, wishlist us on Steam. Google Lightbreak, and I think that the Steam is the first link. Wishlist us on Steam. Also, if you're not in our development or our backer Discord, if you're not in the public Discord server, feel free to join. We post some cool stuff there. We're doing some play testing right now that we could really use some added eyes on. So if you're interested at all in Lightbreak, if you liked what you saw, keep in touch. Wishlist us.
Absolutely. And for us, you can find our game, its info, Discord, everything really, at chewcrew.games. Chew is in like your with your mouth, like you're chewing. Crew dot games. That's the URL.
I will
I
shout
also
out.
oh yeah.
I
and
will
I
shout out. Y'all both have very nice websites, by the way. Very nice. Okay, that's it. Go for it.
very much. I also really appreciate Lightbreak's aesthetic. Yeah, and we had also made a short presentation with slides. I don't know if we still have time for that, but happy to open it up, or if not, yeah.
Yeah, we're running a little bit early, so if you want to go ahead, go for it. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Awesome. This is a lot of what we talked about earlier in the questions, just maybe in more detail. So Hannah and Sam in the call as well. If you have anything to chime in from your own personal experience, feel free to chime in. All right. And so as mentioned, a lot of our team members, like very varying levels of experience, very different backgrounds, very different interests. And so We've done some game jams in the past. Some of us, it was our first game jam ever, but these were our collected tips from this past game jam on how we make games in 48 hours. The two of us, we've already presented ourselves earlier. I'll just throw in that I'm an alum from GSU, graduated in computer science, had a lot of classes with CMII, so I very much appreciate their creative media program. They're great.
And well, I graduated from KSU. I actually have a BFA in digital animation, but after joining the Game Jam, I was actually so inspired by their hard work that I am actually going back to KSU to pursue computer science. So, yeah.
All right. And as mentioned before, we're just two developers out of 8 of us. We're all based in Georgia, came from different schools, different backgrounds, and we did a game jam last year. So the creative process that we kind of wanted to break down was into 3 C's. The conception or the ideation process, forming that initial idea that you'll make your game with, collaboration, or how you might plan out the work that everyone's going to be doing, and then creation, which is actually working on the game, executing, and sharing your work. And so I think in game development, or these 3 C's, while they might be how we structure our approach to game jams, I think a lot of this applies to the game development process as well. And in the early phases, or in a game jam where you don't have much time, some may ask the question like, why plan ahead? You kind of want to be free form. You want to let emergent gameplay give you a lot of room to grow and be flexible and change your game around. And that is a really fun part of the hackathon. We absolutely advocate for that. And we were just trying to solve the questions of how much should you plan in order to allow for that flexibility? How much should you let that plan deviate? How do you let a team of even just yourself or more people stay in sync and in this plan without stifling that creativity? And how do you apply all of this to a hackathon or game jam specifically? So the first phase being conception, or forming your idea. Just some general tips on coming up with that idea. It's really nice if you can make a game that expresses the theme in a creative way. And as we mentioned before, maybe browsing other game jam winners in the past and seeing how they executed their theme. While it might not be the same theme, it'll kind of like open your brain into how to like get creative with the theme in ways that you might not have expected. Will you have fun making this game? As we discussed before, it is really important that everyone is more or less, on board. You can't always make everyone happy, but I think everyone should at least have, agreed to what they want to work on. And how much work and time will this take? This one's pretty tough because we all want to make, the game of our dreams. We can get really carried away with our ideas, and it's still possible to adapt those large ideas into small doable pieces. Just that in 48 hours, there's a lot that can still be hard to kind of execute. So, maybe stay away from games that will have longer campaigns, complex multiplayer, like a game that depends on multiple levels. Story games specifically, not to stay away from them at all. Like I love seeing like how innovative story games can be. But maybe make it something that's playable in like a short 3-minute scene that shows off, the best part of your story and what it's trying to achieve. And that way, it's easily demoable by others. Lastly, when deciding on that idea together, maybe get a confidence vote from everybody instead of just a simple yes or no. It's really good to see, like, on a scale of 1 to 5, like, how confident do you feel that we're going to do this idea, and how enthusiastic are you about this? All right. And so the goals of making that idea that kind of feeds into the planning phase is you come up with the idea that fits the theme, it's fun and doable. And then you can kind of go wild and just imagine, like, what is this end result going to look like? What do you see this as a full game, and how is it going to express the theme? From there, it's a process of compressing that and lowering those expectations so that you can try to fit it into 48 hours. You really want to find what that core game loop of that game is going to be. And so, if there's multiple phases to your game, maybe figure out like the repeatable core game loop and like core actions in that game. Once you found that, compress it further. How many of those mechanics, like how many of like those special features and visual effects can you remove while still getting like the basic idea across? And compressing that even further, how do you take away every mechanic and just come up with a prototype loop that your team can get playable immediately, so that you can start adding some of those mechanics back in? The character controller, like moving around, not even a playable level, but just a level that helps express that movement, and maybe your playtesting area with other enemies or actors or whatever your game would involve. So with that out of the way, into the collaboration phase, planning out that work. The answer being, yeah, you probably should have somewhat of a plan. As we talked about before, it's really good to set up milestones that will help track your progress along the way and help you, your team evaluate, okay, like we haven't met this milestone. How do we stretch this so that we can still make the most of our remaining time? Because you will miss those milestones. That's just a given. Having that plan helps team members have a clear idea of what the end result should look like and what individual pieces they are trying to achieve, in order to make sure that, like, in order to achieve that end result, all of that work is accounted for. It's really easy to just tell everyone, like, okay, get started on this, this, and this, and we'll figure it out as we go. And then, like half a day later, it's like, oh crap, like we're putting this together. Like, who made this asset? Like, I kind of forgot, right? So somewhat of a flexible plan that at least lets you like move around things and reassign them really helps us, make sure that we have all of our bases covered. As mentioned before, plan being clear enough to execute, flexible enough to change. And lastly, consider a director role or a producer, someone who, if you have like a free agent, if you have anyone who is just interested in the work or like has a little bit lighter of a workload, it might be good to have them responsible for fostering communication, checking up on how everyone's doing regularly. And if you don't do this, just make sure that everybody is kind of like speaking up for themselves on their updates and their communication. Just absolutely make sure that everyone is being heard. All right. With that plan comes splitting up the work. The first thing that we did actually was create a mock-up screenshot, because when you're talking about that idea, everyone has a picture in their head, and as soon as you make that mock-up screenshot, you begin to realize, oh, like I wasn't thinking of what you're thinking of. Here's what I was thinking of, and that might even like boost your ideation process too. You might come up with different things that like weren't as easily said just because you didn't see it somewhere. And just for example, here's what our mock-up screenshots looks like for our game. You can see the one in the top left. It's pretty funny. Like we opened PowerPoint and just took clip art from the internet and pasted it just so that people understand, like, this is what you're going to see on the screen. This is the perspective that the game is going to be played from. Here's like where everything is going to be laid out. We took that and made it, I think, Jade, you did that art piece.
Yeah, it was just a rough sketch.
Exactly, a rough sketch. A little bit better than the clip art that we had of what we wanted the game to look like. And even further than that, we try to make that into like a 3D view that was like even clearer to see with UI elements. Splitting up that work as well. For developers, identify that compressed loop past the core game loop, just the one that you're going to get the mechanics together for right away. And for the artists, making that list of assets that's going to go in that core game loop and everything, just to make sure that it's accounted for. This could be like all the models, the sounds, the textures, and visuals. Just consider all the possible states that asset is going to be used. If you're going to make, a little sprite, like, is this sprite, like, does it need to be walking? Does it need to have like an animation state where it's hit and is falling backwards? Is it going to jump? Like, things like that. Just consider how the asset's going to be used and maybe modified later. And the last part of that planning phase is setting up those milestones. This is a very rough timeline. Everyone does this kind of differently. This is just guidelines that we try to shoot for and never really make each year, but it's improving, right? So in the first evening, we spend, as mentioned, a lot of time on the ideation process, setting up that plan, and once everyone's feeling confident and you have that plan set up, everyone can get to work on their assigned tasks. Try to set them up in a way where by the morning or like noon of day 2, they're kind of in a state that you can start to piece things together. We try to piece things together as quickly as possible, so that we can start adding on top of that and have regular game builds following, get them play tested, and see if our idea is working out or we need to switch gears. Somewhere else in the middle of that day, trying to get that repeatable compressed loop into a core gameplay loop that's actually like winnable, has some game logic to it, and it might not be very fun, but at least like it gets the idea of what a playable level might look like. And from there, you can continue to add or improve mechanics until the cutoff. You could put this like X amount of hours before the deadline. Just make sure that at that deadline, the only thing you're doing is polishing what you have, refining it into a really fun experience, even if it's only 3 to 5 minutes, and replacing assets that already exist, so that you can improve them and make them prettier. We try to set our cutoff around 8 hours prior to submission. Of course, again, we never make that. It's usually a lot closer, but at least that gives us a lot of time to fix crucial bugs that are absolutely going to ruin our demo, and work on our presentation. Lastly, we'd recommend create game builds frequently. It's very common that people's builds will corrupt. Sometimes you lose track of which build is which. So just having a lot of those in a shareable place really helps us out. And when you're uploading, try to upload early as well, as internet speeds, like if it's a virtual jam, sometimes servers can be kind of slow. So just try to like upload your quick and dirty one first, and then put in the better one later. All right. And lastly, actually making the game, executing and sharing the work that you're doing together. There's just a few tips for this. So when you're working on that work, sharing status updates and achievements regularly, just one, as a morale booster for your team, but also to just make sure everyone's on the same page. Oh, you're making this mechanic. That is not what I thought that was going to look like, or like that's not going to work with what I'm making. Sometimes you don't realize this in planning until you've actually done it, and that helps identify those problems sooner. Just constant communication, really good, and of course reaching out as well on roadblocks and questions. It's really easy, to split up and put your head down and get really stressed and stuck on something. So it's really nice to identify those roadblocks, and anyone can help you. Like if they don't know the answer, they can help you like see a different perspective, or maybe help track down a resource. This does not have to be in your team either. A lot of game jams have an open Discord or Slack where others like with more experience or with different experience can chime in as well. All of this planning and sharing the work, I think, applies to solo developers as well. You really want to version your work and make it modular in order to make it easy for you to isolate and work on things in isolation. But yeah, try to make parts of your game separate and modular so that you can work on them in isolation and that they're easy to piece together. For developers, try isolating your mechanics in their own empty scenes. Like this way, you can test them in isolation. So if something goes wrong, like it's easier to track down a bug. Some ways that we did work on things in isolation that made them easy to put together later on. For Unity, we utilize prefab variants a lot. For Godot, we're still getting familiar with Godot engine, but it seems like they have a tool for that as well, which is scene inheritance and instances. Artists, being able to share that work, keeping your high resolution copies with layers that are easy for you to go back and modify. Really big one. It's really easy to lose track of the original one, or to work on everything. Like forget, oops, I did this all on a single layer. Now I can't like go back and fix something too easily. Definitely good to invest the extra time to organize that in a way that's easy to go back and modify. And lastly, putting that work in a place that's easy to share and accessed by others. So developers, if you're familiar with source control, using branches within Git to make sure that everyone works on like separate copies that can be merged later. That was pretty key for us, and it is pretty tough. If you're not that familiar with Git, there's lots of really good tutorials online, and I would highly recommend taking the time to do that for the game jam. Good way to prepare. Artists and free agents, maybe make a shared space like a Google Drive where assets can easily be accessed and updated. Google Drive, for example, a lot of people don't know this, but it does kind of have version control. Every time you upload an asset that has the exact same name, Google Drive will replace that asset, but it'll also have a place where you can go back in time and see what that asset looked like before. That was really key for us, especially like if we messed up on something or we just needed to like just track the progress on it. That was really helpful for us. And lastly, although we kind of explained that as a linear process, the 3 C's are kind of meant to be done in a cycle. It's a constant free-form like art where you're adjusting, balancing as necessary. Plans don't go the way you intend them to. And really, if you have to go back to the drawing board and reform your idea because something isn't working out, like do that and then reform your plan so that you can still work with the remaining time you have, and so on. That's the 3 C's. And we've already shown off our game, visited at chukru.games. And maybe really quick, I don't know if we're running low on time. I could show what our game jam game used to look like.
Yeah, please do.
Oh, great. Okay. Just to show, I know we showed what our games look like today. I think it'll be a lot more eye-opening to see what it looks like when we submitted it for the game jam. Are you able to see it right now?
It looks coming through, yeah.
All right, terrific. Okay, we did this all in 2D, and it was very tough to play. Okay, potato taro smoothie. So if I click on this blender, ooh, here it goes. Where's the smoothie? Oh, there it is. Okay, and so instead of delivering it outside of the car, you're intended to get the car next to you into your rear view, and then it's the number 1 order. So I'm gonna fling it out the window. I think I delivered it. That's great. And I can drag these tickets around. It's really ridiculous, and I think crashing into things. Oh yeah, all the little assets or my ingredients jump around, and I don't think I even made the right order there. There's a ridiculous amount of penalties in this game too, not even just for crashing, but for littering. If I want to get rid of this thing in my order, if I chuck it out the window, I lost health. That was crazy. We did not balance this at all, and it did not indicate to us when the level was ending. But that's what we came up with. Even though it wasn't exactly fun to play, it kind of was fun to play because it was so ridiculous, and at least it was demoable, right? So don't be afraid, if what you make during the game jam is not really usable as a portfolio piece. It's okay if you don't even have a complete game. No matter what, going into this jam, you will learn something. And that's why I would always advocate like doing the jam if you can have time. Don't be afraid to stop. Like, you know, if it's tiring you out and you can't make it to the end of the jam, at least you tried. And that is our creation process. Thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that was all wonderful. Thank you all very much. Great panel. Thank you, Laura, for moderating it. Seeing the stars from Sam there. We did have a couple questions in chat. Let's see if we can jump on these very quickly. Number one, you knew was coming, sleep. The specific question was, is there a place to sleep? But let's extend that to also ask, did you actually sleep?
We did, yeah. We were very lucky that many of us were still students at the time, so we could just go back to our dorms. Highly recommend sleeping. You can't use your brain if you don't sleep. Genuinely, don't try to not sleep. That's not a pro strat. That's a strat where your brain stops working on day 2.
Completely. You will think slower, you will work slower, you will mess up more often without sleep. How much? That's kind of up to you. I think we try to let everyone speak for themselves. I don't force anyone, you know, like, oh, we're so close, like, you know, rush on this. Let people figure out what, you know, they're capable of. We prioritize self-care because the point of coming to the jam is to have fun. Like, making a fun game is only second to us like actually enjoying the event in order for us to all walk away happy and having learned something.
And Laura, are there places to sleep at the GSU Jam site?
We will have at least 2 spaces for sleeping. We'll have like a calm lo-fi area using the projector cave. It'll be fun. So yes, there will be places to sleep, and I will be making sure people's healths are in order. So if you see me walking around, you're looking sleepy.
Anybody have recommendations for sleep gear? Somebody asked if they should bring a sleeping bag.
Yes. We have couches. I don't recommend taking a nap on them.
They'll be used for jumping on. All right. Next question was about team building. Can you talk about how you formed your teams?
We walked in with a bunch of friends, but I've definitely been to jams before. I think for the most part, and Laura, you can probably speak to this, but you have like a session that helps people connect with each other, network and form teams together. That's a good way.
Yeah, I don't think I can speak much on this one. I got very lucky, but I think I said this last year too. The reason why I jammed at all is because I saw my friend Adam had a name tag that said Jammer on it, and I'm like, that's funny. I want that tag. I'm not doing anything this weekend, might as well. So that's how I formed my team. So I think that Laura organizing a little meet and greet sesh is better than my methodology.
Sam, there we go.
Yeah, to answer that, I would say at the time I didn't have a team either. So at the time of the jam, there was this meet in room 211 where people were like, "Who doesn't have a team?" And we kind of formed a team right then and there. It was, for us, it was very lucky, but like one of the things that caused a lot of our success was that we let everybody be in their comfort zone when they were working on the game. So if somebody was good at working on the engine, doing development, we didn't force them to do something just because we figured out the stuff that we didn't know together.
Yeah.
And Sam, Frankie Avery wants to know how you got perfect hair, and is that also something that happens at the jam? Right.
That's just genetics, baby.
So a related team question. Do any of you, someone asked the size of the teams, obviously there is no limit, you do one person or as big as you want. Do any of you have any thoughts as to what a perfect team size is for a jam?
Absolutely
more
not.
Yeah, I was gonna say not a specific size, but the more that you have, the more you have to organize. So just keep that in mind. I don't quite know the min-max there, but
We've been
more isn't always
recommending
better.
like
I would
top is 10, and then like anything above that, good luck, have fun.
I would suggest not more than 8. I think, in my experience, like leading a team of more than 8 people becomes a very difficult thing for the person leading because you need to keep track of what everybody is doing, and that can get like somebody can get stuck and not tell you until it's too late. So you want to be able to check in on your teammates, and that is it's kind of true that there is no true limit. It all depends on you. But personally, for me, 8 is my maximum. That's how much I can like juggle in my brain of who is doing what, managing things in the game.
Yeah. Also, not sure if there's a magic number. It really just depends. Like, if y'all are good at organizing, a lot of people looked at our game and were like, "Whoa, 8 people! Like, you probably had, it's probably really easy to get everyone to to work on like all different parts." It's like, well, not quite. It was really, really hard to organize and make sure that everyone knew what they were doing at any given moment. And the more people, as they said, the harder that will be to organize. We did see like other teams that did make the most of their numbers, and it's like, wow, that's really impressive. That probably took a lot of very careful planning and directing for sure.
The GGDA recommends that you have the same size party you'd have around the tabletop role-playing game, 4 to 6. You can't do more than that. At a tabletop role-playing game, you're probably not going to want to do it during a jam. Apparently, question on microwaves has popped up again. Laura, you want to address accommodations?
I actually found that out today. We will have 2, and we will also have a fridge. We'll have like that whole kitchen space at CMII. There'll be counters. I'll bring sticky notes so you can put things on the fridge and like label it as yours. But microwaves will be provided. Be clean with them, please. But yeah, ramen will be cooked.
Matza Man asks, so for students who live on campus for GSU, are able to go to our own dorms to sleep?
Of course, I am not going to stop you. Go for it. Go home, go shower as well. We will not have showers. We will have mini CMI deodorants, but go home.
Remember, there's one point people left from CMI to go to. It used to be the gym where the basketball arena and swim area was to go shower. I don't know if anyone's still doing that or if there's a better location nearby. That was pre.
The gym will be open, and if anybody needs to get like snuck in, I'm not saying we'll sneak them in, but yeah, we are prioritizing health and safety.
One of our people commented, and this wasn't a question, but I think you can all address it, that game jams were intimidating for them. Any thoughts on how to reduce that intimidation factor? Because that's true. A lot of people are intimidated by this whole idea.
I think just doing them. Like, you have to step out of your comfort zone for that initial bit, but know that nobody's judging you for whatever skill level you're at. Everybody's just excited that you're there. You just tell whoever you're working with where you're at skill-wise. And yeah, everybody, it's a very supportive environment. It's a surprisingly supportive environment for how much brain power is in there, but everybody, I've never been in a jam where people are mean to each other. It's very supportive. And yeah, the more you do it, the more comfortable and confident you'll be.
I would say do try to treat it as a very low stakes thing, and figure out like, why are you there? For a lot of people, right, it's to have a fun weekend, and it's to learn something, and it's to make a fun game. You might not even get all 3 of those things done. Not every jam, you're gonna have a team that like works out for you. A lot of jams, like the game idea just doesn't quite come together, and that's okay because you still learn something. And if you didn't find the people that you want to work with in the team that you made, maybe you met people that you could learn a lot from, just talking to other teams that you could collaborate with next year. Totally fine. I mean, there's always going to be more jams, and even past Global Game Jam, there's other jams throughout the year that you can also try out with. The point for me is that it inspires me to work on games past the jam, gives me new ideas like, wow, working on this in 48 hours really sucked. What could I do with this with a month, right? Yeah, low stakes.
And Monique Williams has a great comment. If you're feeling nervous, just bring a stuffed animal. And Frankie, you're right. That applies to everything in life. You had a Dan's Fight Club. I don't know if you'll all be the best for this one, but give it a shot. Is there any advice for a solo dev going in? I'll throw out the first thing. If you're going solo and will not get a team there, go ahead and have an idea ahead of time what you want to work on. What are you trying to accomplish? And the second thing I'll say is we talked about the perfect size for teams being like 4 to 6. That doesn't include all the people from other teams who can come over and try your game out. You have a nearly limitless number of testers. So if you're a solo dev there, test other people's games and beg them to come check out yours. And I'll throw it to you all. What do you think? Any advice for a solo dev?
Keep it very simple. I would, unless you are very, very skilled at doing everything, do not touch it like a 3D game at all. Just keep it 2D and very, very simple. One mechanic. You obviously you know your limits better than anyone, so your mileage may vary with this advice, but I would say keeping it as simple as possible for a solo dev.
Yeah, I was gonna say find if the game jam permits, find a cute little asset pack that you're excited about beforehand, and yeah.
Exactly what Sam said. You probably know your strengths and weaknesses last. Play to your strengths and get very creative in how you work with them. If you're an artist, figure out how you can make your game super pretty with really simple rules that are very easy for you to put together. If you're a developer, yeah, exactly. Find an asset pack or come up with a really, really simple visual design that doesn't require you to do much else but move some squares across the screen. Maybe see what other solo developers have come up with, both published or in game jams. I'll throw in an example. Thomas Was Alone. That's a popular one by a solo developer on Steam. That's literally just squares moving across the screen, and Geometry Dash, things like that.
Yeah, I came to one jam specifically to work on a game of mine, just immerse myself in that atmosphere, that title that I was working on at the time. And unfortunately, the entire jam blew up, and we had to move it. And I had to take over the jam, so I didn't get to work on my game, but jammed the jam the entire weekend. So I've given up on doing that at a jam again. All right. Couple last questions. Monique Williams asks, how do you deal with an overconfident team member? And let's just throw it out in general. Have you been in a situation where you had to part ways with a team member, and how'd you do it?
Very early. As soon as possible. If somebody is not performing, just it is the best thing for you and your team to just cut them off as soon as you can. Because the more nice you are, the more harm you will do in that situation. Because at the end of the day, it will impact the output of everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, go. Oh, I was just gonna say that I think that something that I say a lot is there's some moments when it's kind to be strict. So if somebody is really out there with the ideas and not coming back down, and they don't have a lot of development experience to back that up and all of that, think about the bigger picture, which is everybody's trying to get something cool out of this weekend. It doesn't mean that they don't have to jam. They could still solo dev. They could find a different team. But if it's not working, it's nothing personal. Everybody's trying to get their own stuff out of the jam.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why we prioritize getting that confidence vote. So even those who aren't vocally speaking up can still have input, and that way you can check how does everybody feel about this, and if it's not working out, or if you have a really problematic team member, exactly, it doesn't have to be something personal. It's it just sounds like you've got a really good idea, we're not all quite on board with it, but you might have a better time making that work in some other way.
And that last point's especially good. You're not just doing yourself a favor, you're doing them a favor. They might not mesh with you. They might very well mesh with another team and do very well with that team. So, yeah, sever it as early as you can. Everyone can move on with no hard feelings. It just didn't work out for the two of you. All right. A lot of good comments in the chat. A lot of great praise for both Lightbreak and Fruit 66. If you haven't already wishlisted Lightbreak, do it. I know I shared the link earlier in the chat. Sam or Hannah, if you want to do it, you are more than welcome to. Chew Crew, we shared Chew Crew games. Nothing to wishlist yet, I'm afraid, right?
We do. We have our Steam page up. You are able to wishlist.
Excellent. All right, Steam page is up. Quick question while I've got you on here. We're looking at a bunch of Georgia groups taking part in the June Next Fest on Steam. Are you all interested in applying for that? You have to apply in February if you're interested.
Very good notice. We might not personally make that, but those Steam Fests are absolutely like terrific way to boost your numbers and get your game seen.
Sam?
I am not sure if you have to be in a release state.
No, you release after.
Okay, then yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I've been hearing from a lot of Georgia devs at DreamHack that they're interested in the Summer Next Fest. So we might have a bunch of us trying to see what happens. And everyone out there, remember, invest in Lightbreak stocks is the comment in chat. So, yeah, buy that stock early now when it's only $100 a share, as opposed to what it'll be later. All right. That was a great panel. Thank you to all of our panelists, our moderator, Laura. Make sure you sign up for Jamsite ASAP. I see all the applause happening in chat, and a lot of good luck everyone's as well. So we really appreciate it. And Laura, we're going to throw it to you for the last comments. Any last thoughts on the GSU site? I'm going to post up the GSU link while you talk.
Register for Global Game Jam. We have a Discord up. That'll be the link that's posted. So yeah, just show up. Don't worry about imposter syndrome. We will take anybody. We have an excellent group of mentors that'll be there during the event, and we have some judges who are very excited to see your games. So yeah, come by. We'll have some awesome technology ready for use. We got the LED wall. Just CMII is at our disposal. And also super shout out to CMII for sponsoring the event. Nathan Archer and Brendan Dicker, very cool guys who are really helping out, and they want us to game jam, so might as well game jam. So yeah, come on out January 26th to the 28th. We start at 4:30 next Friday. So yeah, good stuff.
And I'm having trouble scrolling back all the way to get that link, so the links will be in the description. This video will stay up online, so check it out. And one more time, one last round of applause to all of our panelists. Thank you all very much. All right, everybody, register for the jam, and good luck jamming.